Urban Finance. I am here with Oliver Brown, founder and CEO of Brown Tax Preparations and Financial Service LLC. So, Oliver, can you tell the folks a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on your platform this evening, Kaden. And my name, as you stated, is Oliver Brown, and I'm the independent owner. I'm the founder of an accounting organization, Brown Tax Preparation and Financial Services LLC. I've been working in the capacity as an accountant for close to 25 years. Worked for a little over 23 years for corporate firms in an employee capacity, and I've been an independent entrepreneur since the age of 18 and decided to venture out on my own, after getting some training while attending college, while getting my education in New York City. Was While I was attending the university in New York, there was a program ran by the IRS that I had the opportunity to get trained by the IRS and start work, performing services by way of tax preparation for the community. And henceforth, that was kind of the seed that kind of blossomed into a budding business that at the time I didn't realize would ultimately be my path that I was going to set for as far as an entrepreneur.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And so today we're going to be talking about, how to set up an LLC, as well as should you do an LLC, a DBA, an S corp, or those type of things. But before we jump into that, if you're out there, make sure you smash that like button. Feel free to ask any questions as we're doing this live. If you have any questions at all for Oliver or myself, feel free to drop them in the comment section and I'll bring them on the screen. And also feel just free to say hello if you're watching live. I definitely like shouting out and recognizing people who are coming on to the live stream. So Oliver, can you tell us first, what's the difference between, I guess, an LLC or a DBA?
Sure, not a problem. Well, the LLC structure, a DBA is in common references a doing business as. And the common differences between the two, the LLC is an actual registered entity structure that you'll file the necessary paperwork as an independent business owner with the relevant Department of State in your state where you're looking to register the business. And it's in the terms of the difference, the LLC is actually a structured legal entity, while in the case of a DBA, it's merely a name that the owner of the business is operating in order to conduct business, but it has really no full legal force. And one of the greatest benefits with registering as an LLC, as opposed to operating a independent business as a DBA, is the personal liability exposure that you'll have for a DBA. By that I mean, if you potentially subject to a lawsuit while in the process of conducting business, your personal assets are subject to legal ramifications by way of garnishments or things of that nature in a lawsuit. When you structure your business and register it as an LLC, you have that separation of your personal assets from the business assets and the business entity itself.
Nice. And so I guess my question for you, just to kick things off, is I guess so. I run my business, the Urban Finance, right now as a DBA, and so I guess when should I consider changing from a DBA doing business as? Is there a formal DBA process? First of all, and when should I consider moving my business from a DBA to a LLC?
All right. Well, there are a lot of, the purpose of DBA is so hopefully you're going to take the necessary steps to separate yourself from being an employee and working and operating and gaining your own financial independence. Now, setting up a DBA is quite simple. There isn't any paperwork really involved with creating it. As I mentioned, it's not a formal entity. It's not a separate business. It's in essence a representation of the person or the individual. Now, what you're going to be required to then formally going to be aware, there are going to be certain fees that are going to be associated with actually formally registering a business as an LLC. Now, those costs start off initially with once you formulate the entity name, you then need to register with the Department of State. That has an associated cost. You need to then secure a federal tax ID number or an employee identification number. That does by way of the Internal Revenue Service. That doesn't have an associated cost with it. But if you task a professional, maybe an accountant or an attorney or another firm that does business formation services, you're going to have a fee associated with paying that person or paying that entity for creating the entity. Now, you're also going to need to create a business bank account. depending on the setup and the structure of the accounts, you could have fees associated with housing your business account within the entity. That's going to be required for an LLC. And there may be other certain city or county related fees that you have to pay depending on the type of business that you're registering as an LLC in order for you to operate and conduct business. So the fee structure is one of the main things because, of course, many business owners or pretty much anyone in this world is going to be concerned with cost. So you're going to have additional costs that come with doing that. Tax implications wise, you're going to have filing requirements by way of additional forms when you file your personal income tax returns when you register as an LLC. So you're going to have additional forms, which means you're going to have additional fees to pay the preparer, a CPA, an accountant, whoever does your taxes. And yeah, so those are really the core pieces you're saying as far as really the transition points as far as the differences.
Oh, wow. I don't know about you or the folks that are watching live, but I just got really stressed out thinking about all of the things that you just said and having to do all of that when I transitioned from, I guess, my DBA right now to a formal LLC. Just want to say a quick shout out to Laverne. I see you in the chat. Shout out to Verness, Junk Closet. I see you in the chat. And shout out to D Littleton, who says she actually just completed her LLC. So kudos to you. Feel free to share with the folks what type of business that you have. And so, Oliver, you just mentioned a lot of, I guess, aspects of creating the LLC.
Yeah.
And so I guess for all of those things, for that particular one, how much will that cost if you're kind of I guess getting a professional to do a lot of it for you, or most, if not all of it for you? And how much will it cost? Like, and I know based on what you said, there may be some variable costs between the type of business and things of that nature. But just on average, how much does it cost if you're doing it yourself? And how much it costs if you're getting a professional to do it? And as well as, I guess, how much time will it take either yourself or a professional? Because I think that's one of the things that people typically debate for themselves. Is it worth me spending the time doing it, or should I, just hire a professional to kind of take care of that process for me?
Right. Now, as you mentioned, the costs are variable. So if it taking the time, and I like to wait, one of the most precious commodities that you have in life that you don't get to purchase, you don't get to rewind, you don't get it back, and that's time. And time is a very precious commodity that unfortunately you can't put a price on. But from a place of an individual deciding to take the onus and actually doing the research in order to be able to follow all the steps to register move their DBA into an LLC structure, you could be looking at average costs ranging, let's say, maybe $250 to $350, again, depending on your state requirements, the regulatory requirements for your state or county or municipality. It also will vary for your county level business tax licenses and city licenses. Depending on what type of business you're operating, they're going to be charging associated fees that are going to be variable. They're going to be different based on the type of service or product that you're selling. So if you then take the next step up, we decide to take the initiative and actually hire a professional to do it. That would always be my best recommendation, because again, depending on the type of business structure you're looking to orchestrate and the type of the business format that you're going to be laying out, there may be certain steps that you may not be able to just go online and find via Google. So it's always best to type into a professional. And again, fees that are being charged by CPAs, accountants, other financial professionals can vary. So it's really a tough one to ask as a task as far as what the associated costs. You will be paying more, obviously, because you're then paying for the service, the time, and the expertise of a professional in order to be able to make sure all the necessary steps to set up your business accordingly are going to be met. So, in my humble opinion, you can always follow the steps by way of doing your own independent research. But if you're not in a place of comfort to ensuring that you're making sure you check all the boxes in certain terms of formally registering your business to be official by way of an LLC structure, hire a professional.
And so I know, so I'll ask it very, very directly. So 250 to maybe, let's say 350 will be setting it up yourself with the paperwork and legal fees. That's if someone wants to do it themselves. Right. And I know each professional, each business is different, but would you say you're looking at $1,000 to $2,000 if you're going the professional route? Or, and what exactly will the professional be doing for you? And I know you mentioned some of it before, but if
Yeah.
you say, let's say you get an accountant and
Yeah.
ask them, are they going to handle everything, and what exactly are they going to be doing, and what exactly, even if it's a big range, what type of money are we looking at?
All right. So I'll say on the lower tier for, let's say for my business, tax preparation and financial service, creating a formal entity within the state of Florida. The fee is going to be mandated by way of making sure you make your annual payment to the Florida Department of State for officially registering the entity. For a LLC, the associated cost is $135. There's also a county requirement and a city requirement in the region where my business is formally registered, and that ranges, I think, believe combined county and city, it's about 150 to $175 for
Mhm.
those fees that are required. The setup for the business accounts, of course, if you again, this is what the added benefit you get working with a professional. I do the research by way of ensuring that I vet the proper financial institution for which I'm going to be tasking to house my business accounts.
Mhm.
So I go through the process of making sure that for purposes of the services that are going to be provided to me, the full offering that I'm getting from either the financial institution, whether it be a credit union or a regular commercial bank, are there any fees associated with keeping the accounts there? Whether it be for the bank accounts themselves, if you have credit cards, lines of credit, things of that nature that are going to support the growing entity that is your new business, and those would be the core components. Again, the fee there is no fee associated with actually applying for the
Mhm.
Internal Revenue Service or a tax ID, but that will be a part of the process. And again, that will be part of what you're paying the professional to kind of take care of and handle for you. And if in the case of certain type businesses, creating an operating agreement is also another structure, depending on the number of owners of
Mhm.
the LLC. The LLC structure can be that of a single member variation, where
Let's
there
assume it's single member for the purpose of this conversation.
Sure. That's a one member owner, in essence. One person formally registering with the Department of State in order to create the new entity, which is the LLC. You can have multiple member LLCs, and that structure will be registered as a partnership.
Mhm.
And then that comes with a certain layer of taxation benefits and also different filing requirements by way of your tax returns. Preparing a 10 form IRS form 1065 for the partnership, the net profits of or net operational activity income net of profit expenses for that business, then is passed through by way of a Schedule K1. Now I'm kind of getting into the layers of the tax preparation component, but these are all the different unique things that come with the differences between the DBA structure and the LLC. Now, the DBA is it's a lot less simplified, and kind of summarizing it, the costs to establish it are very minimal in comparison to the LLC.
Mhm.
But the liability protections, the taxation benefits, and the flexibility that you get by way of filing your income taxes, there are a lot more benefits, and it will always be the best route for you to take to actually register as an LLC. That would,
And so the other one people always talk about is an S corp. I guess what makes the S corp different, and I guess when would you recommend that particular type?
all right. Now, as an S corp, S elected, well, as a corporate entity, taking the election of taking that next step, the owners of a corporation are not viewed as members as it is in an LLC structure. You then
Mhm.
become a shareholder. Shareholders, one share of stock or ownership in the company, one share of stock in a corporation equates to one share of ownership for that particular entity. So, in the case of looking at a major corporation like, say, Sony or Toyota or Nike, if you buy shares on the open market, as these are publicly traded companies, you in essence are a part owner of the company. And
Mhm.
what advantages come with that? Ownership in these mega corporations, these multi-billion dollar companies, by way of you owning shares. If there's a dividend that's payable to you by way of ownership in the stocks, you in essence are getting paid for the activity that, in the case of you ever heard the term, your money is making you money?
Yeah, I love that term.
Yeah, that's always a great term. So having ownership in these companies by way of having dividends being yielded to you by way of the returns based on the company's profitability, you have an earning potential that is even greater than that of an LLC structure.
Okay, so I think So the difference for me, this is what it seems like, and let me know if I'm hitting it on the nail. Your
Mhm.
LLC is kind of like if you're creating a business, maybe yourself, maybe a partnership, and an S corp. Maybe you create that if you need to raise funds and potentially even sell shares of your company in order to raise additional capital. Is that how you can kind of think of it?
In short form, to make it very simple and granular, yes, by all means. Your when you register an LLC, by way of its core structure, you're the stock market. Everybody's getting into the
Mm,
investing game. Your LLC, your corporate entities are the ones where you could actually buy shares and buy ownership within the company in order to be able to reap the benefits that come with having some of these mega brands. They're all registered as either C corporations or S elected corporations. So definitely, yes. So as far as like you're saying, having more access. So as far as from an ownership standpoint, yes, an LLC is more, I guess, they structured. More LLCs you'll find based around the small to medium sized business communities. Mega corporations you'll find generally operate as a corporation as opposed to an LLC.
nice, nice. All right, if you're just tuning in, I'm here with Oliver Brown, owner and well CEO and founder of Brown Tax Preparation and Financial Service, and we're talking about just the overall, I guess, should you run your business as an LLC or a DBA or even an S corporation. If you have any questions at all, let us know in the comment section. If you have any comments at all, let us know in the comment section. And also feel free to smash the like button. That really helps to get this content out. And so, Oliver, I'll be very direct. So, and
Yes.
it seems like you're saying that, overall, the LLC is one of the best ways to go for the average business owner. And so I'm currently running obviously, as you know, my business as a DBA.
Yes.
So I guess the next question is there a amount of revenue that I should be bringing in that I should say, okay, now I should consider getting an LLC? Or is it more of I want to do this business more full throttle? Or maybe it's a combination. What would you say should be one of those defining factors if someone says, okay, I'm moving from just doing business as to actually, incorporating my business as an LLC?
Right. Well, there isn't a income threshold or a dollar amount. I would say will be a benchmark for which you may want to transition from one entity structure, a business structure, i.e., an LLC, into a corporate entity. I'm sorry, we're talking DBA and LLC now. Excuse me. So,
You can do all three if you would like. I would
sure.
love to hear it.
All right. So, based on your current structure as a DBA, again, there are a lot of savings, cost savings that you have the benefit of taking advantage of. And while you're in the earlier stages, the growing stages of your business, that's something that's very beneficial and crucial to your sustainability. So, from a standpoint of being able to manage your expenses and being able to budget accordingly, especially as a smaller business owner, especially if you're doing dual roles, where if you're still working a W-2 position, working as an employee while doing your business, you want to mitigate your costs and your expenses as best possible. So, while you would love to have I would always recommend to have that variable protection by way of separation of your personal assets from your business that you get with an LLC. It's understandable in the growing stages of your business that you may want to cut costs. That cutting costs may be more important, especially if you're not
And
working.
just so I'm hearing right, to
Yeah.
cut costs,
Mhm.
DBA structure is actually maybe the best one starting off with your business to cut costs.
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's definitely a lot more efficient. There aren't many. Again, the fees that you have to pay to the Department of States and any other
How
regulatory.
often do you have to pay? Is it an annual thing?
Yeah.
And what is the annual fee? And I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No worries at all. We're having free dialogue. And yes, the fees are generally annual for the Department of States in order to renew your LLC designation. So it's a one time a year event, but depending on what state you're operating out of,
Mhm.
we could be talking 135, 150, 175. So it all depends. And again, it's not just simply depending on what type of business that you're operating, your requirement is not just simply to the federal government by way of the Department of State. You also have a requirement to your local county and potentially your city or municipality. So that's really kind of the balance that you have to kind of weigh out. And it's even best in your situation where you have a qualified professional, i.e., an accountant or CPA, that's going to be able to guide you as you work out the framework, the timeline that kind of moves forward with the growth, the income generation for your business, and as things kind of start to ramp up, then the layer of protection needs to be you need to have that certain layer for protection in the same manner in which you buy a home or you buy a car and you have to put insurance. Well, insurance in the case of owning a business is having that protection. Now, register and separating your personal assets from your business is key, because we know we live in a world and an environment where, hey, things don't work out. Things don't always work out, in business, and you may end up in a situation where potentially you're looking at, a debt not being paid, or a potential legal ramification by way of you conducting or doing business. And you don't want your personal assets, primarily looking at your home or your vehicles, being subject to any kind of litigation. So, by way of seizure, but through a corporate. So, you have that's where the barometer is for me personally. It's not a dollar situation. Yes, granted, as you're making more and generating more revenue and income through the business, that one kind of goes one and the other. But there is a dollar threshold. I'd say, hey, once you go above a certain gross revenue or net, or once your bottom line reaches above a certain net income, but on your profit and loss statement, that's when you should transition. It really is something that's subjective, but you want to have the advice or the consultation of financial professionals that be able to guide you based on the structure of your business.
No, that's awesome to know, because I'll be honest and transparent. And Oliver's my accountant, just so you guys know, just to add a little additional transparency there. But we received some significant tax savings, just being able to write off various things as part of our business that we do use for our business. For example, like certain furniture that comes with the business. There's tax advantages to those type of things. Even equipment that we buy for our business, lighting, camera, and so driving that you have to do for your business. And when you run your business out of your home, there obviously, when you have you may have an office, and that takes up lighting, that takes up energy, and all of those things you may be able to write off. And you can write those things, the beautiful thing, off as a DBA as well. Are you able to do the same thing when you transition it to the LLC, or is it the process gets more complicated?
Well, the forms and filing are generally could be a little bit more, but as far as the ability to be able to claim those wonderful write-offs, they remain consistent. So you're still able to write off all of your relevant operating expenses for the business. You mentioned quite a few by way of home office deduction. And again, the key, I'm always, so it's a warm feeling for me when I see independent, worker bees, folks that have worked number of years as employees decide to take that leap of faith and transition into owning a business, because those benefits by way of the tax write-offs, especially, which is always a key thing for us to focus on, are far greater as a business owner, independent business owner, as opposed to an employee. And as you stated, use of your vehicle while in the process of conducting business, using a dedicated office space within your home, relevant, equipment, things of that nature. You kind of touched on a lot of the different things I would have mentioned by way of the tax return deductions, but those things that you get those benefits and then some working, when you create the formal entity, whether you're operating as a DBA. But one thing that, again, certainly, so there's a scope of reference for the IRS in terms of not having any subjective thoughts as it relates to whether you're operating a hobby as opposed to a formal business. It's always best to get the registration process completed and have it more official, if you will, by way of the LLC. So you don't have any implications by way of potential audits where the IRS will come in and kind of have more of a fine-tooth comb kind of situation, looking at the expenses that you're writing off. And I will always advise, especially when you get into the framework of business write-offs by way of your taxes, consult with a professional if you don't have the experience or the knowledge to be able to claim some of these write-offs. And granted, there are, many general write-offs that, most, independent people can go online by way of, your education and your own smart wits to be able to figure out and claim. There are certain aspects that come with working with a professional that you don't have the years of experience or knowledge, or even the education, having gone through certain certifications and training in order to be able to claim. So, it takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. One of the things that I was thinking about when you were saying, the IRS coming in and audit and stuff like that. And I was thinking like you're making tens of thousands of dollars that they're taxing you on because you're operating a business, and then at the same time that you have to pay out to them, but at the same time, it's the question of, is it a business or a hobby? And but that begs a good question right there. I guess, what are some things that may classify something as a business as opposed to hobby? Is it amount of hours that someone is putting in? And I'll let you speak to it.
That's a key component. Yes, certainly the number of hours dedicated to that particular business or craft, and certainly the income. You have to be in business for purposes of generating and operating that business for purposes of revenue drivers. So if you can't take a situation where something that you do sporadically or every now and again, and really there aren't any, the material participation requirement isn't there. So it has to be something where you're taking the true onus of saying, this is something that I'm doing seriously, independently, really committing myself to for purposes of trying to generate and drive business activity. And that, again, you're going to walk that fine line, and you don't want to taper that line, because if you are potentially subject to an audit, that could be an ugly stream that could then reverberate itself through many years to come, dealing with the Internal Revenue Service, and also at the state levels as well, depending on what state you're actually you operate, or you're operating that business, that quote unquote business out of, or where you're living. So yeah, that participation is really key. And just claiming deductions or expenses willy nilly is not going to fly with the IRS. Everybody.
No, I think that's really, really amazing to know. And I would just say that, my wife can attest, if the IRS ever comes to the amount of hours that I put into this business, as she is right now watching our son while I'm having a conversation with you. But on the other side, I do think, Verness was saying before, she's in the process of working on an LLC. And, one of the things about it is that protection that it offers you. And I think that's one big protection there, that when you formalize the process into an LLC, it's a little less ambiguous if it's actually a hobby and an actual business. And so, I think, if someone is considering, creating an LLC, I think that might be one consideration there, making sure that you're always in the right with the IRS. At least that's what I think, or one of the things that I think.
That, unfortunately, not to cut you, that's a key. That is very much key, because at the end of the day, one of the biggest reasons, other than obviously generating a profit, and seeing something, seeing the benefits that are reaped from actually your hard work and your labor, are the tax write-offs. We see many people of wealth that utilize the tax system accordingly, and while it may not seem fair at times to the regular working class individual, a lot of the tax breaks that they're able to secure of an intricate nature, they are legally doing those things. So you have to make sure you're on top of your supporting documentation, and making sure you keep all of your receipts. For purposes of layers of transparency, you have to have those checks and balances. You have to have that audit trail. So that also, again, comes with actually operating an official business. You're not going to just simply pay for an expense, chuck the receipt in the trash somewhere, and think you don't have to worry about it until you get the tax time. No, you're required to keep that underlying support, and making sure that you're in compliance with the regulations that are going to come, or the ramifications, I should say, that are going to come with a potential inquiry by the IRS or another department asking you to support these deductions that you're claiming the benefit of on your taxes.
Yeah, no, I think recently an article that came out that showed that in 2018, Elon Musk, the second richest guy in the world, paid no federal tax because of between just the appreciation on his stocks, and as well as business write-off. I think they said Bloomberg did the same thing, billionaires. And so we see billionaires not paying any federal tax, when we have mom and dad, sometimes single mom and dads, making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, paying a third of their paycheck in taxes, which is absolutely crazy. And I do think, this is why, it's important to learn the game. And I always compare building wealth honestly to a game, because I probably grew up loving to play video games and I've always been good at it. But even creating a business and operating a business full time gives you so many tax advantages. It's insane, and it's one reason why those people who start businesses are able to build so much wealth. Obviously, you have an expert like yourself, operating the tax law, operating the tax aspect of things, and the accounting operational aspect of things in a way that's legal, because you don't want to end up like the DMX and those celebrities that probably tried to do the right things and got caught on different tax litigations. But you can and one of the videos I recently did was Rihanna. She just became a billionaire,
Right.
and only about $30 million came out of her actually, her singing career. The rest of it come the other 200, the other, I guess, 900 and something $1 million came out of her business that she created. And the fact that a business could appreciate with very little tax implication, as opposed to your income and things of that nature. And
Right.
so, you can earn so much money by just being a business owner. And I do think that's one of the reasons why, owning a business is one of the best ways to create wealth. And I always say nothing's wrong with a 9 to 5. I have a 9 to 5 now. Nothing's wrong with being an employee, especially if you have a job that you love. But when you start, operating in a way where you're taking advantage of the tax code, you're taking advantage of the benefits of being a business owner, it can really start helping your family out. And so I guess that's my little spew there. I guess, are there anything else that you feel that might be important to share with folks that are thinking through the tax preparation, not necessarily the tax preparation process, that might be another video,
Right.
but business creation process of forming their LLC or DBA
No, sure.
or
No,
S corp? I'm sorry.
no worries. Again, I'm always, like you're saying, I kind of speak to and have the same thoughts and sentiments that you have as it relates to, everyday people getting up and get out there in order to be able to feed their families and, provide for others that are in the sphere of your life. And, while working a job is admirable, I'm always one to encourage, people that I come into contact with, whether it be tangibly, in person or virtually, to really take that step, invest in yourself. I've done, especially if you've done it for a certain number of years, like, and just speaking in my case, I worked over 2 decades working for high level corporate firms. And while it was very fulfilling, I gained a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and a lot of the things that I learned, working at these high levels I'm not able to transition and bring it to the local community by way of, primarily my client base is small business clients. And, the level of knowledge that I can bring to them is paramount. It's paramount in terms of their ultimate growth. So I'm always gonna push for, taking that next step. You mentioned generational wealth building is something I'm big on, and, ownership in your business and having that same level of dedication and time that you give to helping to, working a 9 to 5, that same time can be well invested in yourself, especially if you have, ones to follow, i.e. your children, and your siblings and your offspring and just your family overall, whether it be blood or not blood family. Taking that step in order to be able to secure, things that are going to put you in a better position to be able to enjoy more of life. That you get those level of flexibility when it comes to owning your own business. I just returned from a nice extended break with my family. Was gone for probably about, close to a month. And while I was away, doing the wee hours of the morning, which I'm generally an early riser, I was able to conduct business, get client returns done, do financial reports, and still be able to enjoy a great quality of life, spending time with my wife and my kids. So that flexibility and the ability to be able to earn and meet your responsibilities financially and do the things you need to do in life is very much attainable while growing your business. And while the transition point may not be the same for everyone, I can't expect at the end of the day, based on your financial circumstance, that you could be in a position where you could just quit your job and start a business. But hey, Rome is not built in a day. You could start off slow enough. operate that DBA
Mm.
out of your home office. You know, work that mom and pop operation right out of your back office in your home or your apartment. Just lay the foundation to be able to put yourself in a position where you can formally transition once you feel a level of comfort, and or you then get the proper guidance and support around you by way of the professionals that are going to help you take it to the next level. So that's something that I'm big on, and I know that we've had many conversations, having meeting in the minds about ownership and investing and things of that nature. Those are the things that we got to kind of collectively be focused, like making more of the norm in our community, especially.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you again, Oliver. I just want to say thank you to Vernesh Junk Closet. This is actually my first super chat sticker, and so I'm extremely excited about that. Thank you so much for giving that. And just so you guys know, super chat sticker is when someone just love the content that you're bringing. So thank you, Oliver, and they donate to the cause. So thank
Wonderful.
you so much. And if anyone else feel free to donate, or feel free to hit that thanks button or whatever you do. But I'm just so grateful for it. And she says, exactly, if you can make the man money, you better make yourself some money as well. And I fully agree. One of the ways we can truly create generational wealth, and that's something I always talk about, one of the ways we can pass on a job to our children is formalizing our businesses, starting businesses, and starting businesses that we can actually leave on to our children if that's something that they are interested in doing themselves. And so if you're now joining us, I'm here with Oliver Brown, and so we're wrapping up this conversation on should you run your business as an LLC or DBA. If you have any questions at all for him, feel free to ask us. Feel free to let us know in the comment section, and we'll read it live. But before we close up, Oliver, for those folks that may, maybe they want to hear more about what you're doing, more about your tax preparation. Maybe they may need help starting their DBA, or they're starting their LLC or S corp. Can you tell the folks how they can, kind of reach you, support you, find out more about what you're doing?
Sure, absolutely. And, I'm on social media platforms. I can be found via Facebook under the business name, entity name is Brown Tax Preparation and Financial Services LLC. I'm also on Instagram. Instagram tag is at O Brown BTF. That's at OBROWN BTF. That's Brown Tax Financial for the short name. I also have a Twitter handle, but I'm very rarely on Twitter. And quite frankly, I'm not a big social media person, but I've had to kind of indoctrinate myself by way of the platform because many of my younger clients, especially, have gotten on my case. I won't find a lot of the millennials in, at social networking events or brick and mortar type gatherings. They're going to be found on social media platforms. So I'm doing my best to kind of change with the times. And that's one thing I certainly pride myself on, even as an accountant with the years of experience that I have, which is it's shocking to think I'm approaching 25 years in the field. And in the introduction, just to kind of give a little bit of insight of how I kind of fell into the field. I didn't grow up, as a young child wanting to be an accountant. I kind of fell into the career, I would say. In my senior year in high school, I took a keyboarding and business course. And at the point that I'm getting ready to graduate high school, I wasn't quite sure what career path I was going to seek to choose when I started college. And I did very well in the course, and my teacher in the class recommended why not give accounting a shot as a degree program. And sure enough, I started in the program, and I excelled in it. I did very well, and lo and behold, I've marked out a pretty good career, thus far, even to the point where the generational wealth building aspect and the transition of moving from one onto the next line of command for me. I have two children. I have two sons, and I intentionally didn't put my first name as a part of the company name. I named it Brown Tax Preparation as opposed to Oliver Brown, because my hope and goal was, prayfully, the good Lord would bless me that one of my sons would actually want to take the mantle. And thankfully, one of them has stepped up and made me well aware that he wants my job. So with that being said, I'm leaving a legacy that I'm certainly I'm thankful that I've been in a position to gain, worked at a high level, and now I can then transition that knowledge and leave something beyond even a home or some money in the bank. I have a formal business. I'm educating my kids, and in terms of the ownership aspect, I want both of them to be owners and investors, and these are the things that I want them focused on. And I've done hopefully an admirable job thus far. My wife seems to give me the comments and the kudos that I do a good enough job with my sons, and I'm very happy to know that I'm going to leave a legacy for them. And going back into the the reach me component, you can also reach me you can check out my company website, which is www.btfllc.com. And my firm operates locally out of the Treasure Coast region in South Florida, but I do service clients across the United States and even international clients as well. And my company number where you can reach me is 772-873-7600. So those are the various means of communication that you can use to find me.
Awesome. Thank you. And so that is up on a screen, his company's website, btfllc.com. And I put up as well the Instagram, obrownbtf, or at obrownbtf. I know that Verness had asked for those. And so Oliver, just wanted to say thank you so much for, joining us here again to talk about process different. Like, what do you have to do different there? And we'll end there.
Sure. The paperwork. It's really a lot of different paperwork that's and filing requirements. And the for-profit world, which is what we've been focused on for the entirety of this conversation, is very much different than the nonprofit. So it's simply paperwork, and that's different. And the nonprofit status or election that you have to attain by way of the IRS approving it. So it's really the paperwork that's involved for the most part. A lot of the legwork is similar, just the documents that you have to file and the filing requirements based on your registered state is going to be different. But we could have some dialogue about that offline as it relates to how that's set up.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Oliver. It was great having you with us, and it was great, with our comment section. Thank you, Verness. Thank you, D. Littleton, and thank you, Laverne, for just dropping conversation. Thank you, Harry. Everyone that viewed us, whether you commented or just viewed us live, because I saw, I think at a height we may have had, 10, 11 people live at one particular time. And so, thank you everyone that's even live right now with us. And again, if you guys, want to follow up with Oliver, you have his Instagram, you have his website. Like I always say, God bless you. And remember to continue to live your best life.
Amen. Thanks so much for having me.